13. I think last time we stopped when that monster clown, he discovered Emily, Daisy and skeleton keys in the attic. So we can carry on now. Funny face attacks, it's called. There he is. Attacking. Scary little fella. Right. Time seemed to stand still as Emily watched Funny Face leap across the gap between two buildings. For a split second she was quite sure he could not reach them, but less than a moment later, dogs and crash. Funny Face smashed through the window. The monster landed in a shower of shattered glass and splintered window frame. "Daisy!" cried Skeleton Keys. "Get Emily out of here." "Oh, so now Sir Greenslaw is back and spoiling for a fight. I'm useful," Daisy replied. "Not this time, Bomebag. You're the one who wanted adventure. You sort it out." With that, she turned invisible. "Daisy!" cried Skeleton Keys as the monster loomed over him. Funny Face glared at him for a moment, his wide grin fixed to his face. Then he spun towards Emily and raised his clawed hands to strike. "Crumb crinkles," Emily muttered. Skeleton Keys did not hesitate. He threw himself onto the monster's back and wrapped his arms around his neck. "Back, you falsome funny man." As Chakaboo scuttled under the cap, Emily set about doing what she always did when trouble struck, looking for an escape. With Funny Face blocking the window, she raced to the door that Daisy had so warningly locked. "Blasted back to front girl, I would have given you pen," Emily grumbled as Daisy sulked invisibly in a corner of the attic. "I would have given you damn pen back." She checked her pocket for her lockpick, but then she remembered it was still in her jacket, lying somewhere under the wreckage of the clock tower. "Emily, flee!" cried Skeleton as he clung to the clown's monster's neck. Suddenly he felt Funny Face's huge hand climb around his head. A moment later the monster flung him across the room like a rag doll. Emily ducked as he flew over her head and crashed into the door. A skeleton slammed to the floor. Funny Face spotted Wardy-Girdy's pen held tightly in Emily's hand. He rounded on her, hot breath puffing out from between his teeth. "Looks like you got me buying to rise, Funny Face," Emily said, hiding the pen behind her back. "I take my hat off to you." With that, Emily whipped off her cap and held it out. Funny Face glanced down to see Emily's beetle fly out from the inside. The startled monster stumbled back as Chakaboo buzzed furiously around his face. But he was not startled for long. In a flash, he brought a massive, hairy hand down upon the beetle, sending him spiraling dizzyingly to the floor. "Chuck!" Emily cried. Funny Face lifted his foot over Chakaboo and then brought it down with a ground-shaking thud. "Chakaboo, you monster!" "See what happens when you take pen?" hissed the voice. A faint green glow appeared behind the looming Funny Face as Wardy-Girdy floated through the shuttered attic window. "Gertie is not yours. Funny Face, take pen." Funny Face fixed grin did not waver as he stomped towards Emily. With tears in her eyes, Emily held Wardy-Girdy's pen over her head. "You want this, you pair of monsters? Here!" she cried, and she threw as hard as she could into a shadowy corner of the attic. It clattered between two floorboards. "Not again, pen! Funny Face, find!" shrieked Wardy-Girdy. Funny Face spun around like a dog watching a flying stick and stomped after the pen. Within moments, he was tearing up floorboards with his claws. With the ghost and monster distracted, Emily turned back to the door. She grabbed the handle and pulled, hoping an old wood might give way, but the door wouldn't budge. For the first time in a long time, fear took hold. She looked down at the limp body of Skeleton Keys and wished more than anything that his fingers were as she'd always imagined them, each tipped with a remarkable key. There is Pen. Gertie sees, howled Border Gertie at Funny Face. Get Pen. Emily did not turn around. All she could think of was Skeleton Keys. In fact, in that strange, scary moment, Emily imagined Skeleton Keys more wildly and more than ever before. Suddenly, an eerie, shimmering light filled the air. This time, Emily did turn around, just in time to see a tall, thin figure materialize before her very eyes. And there it is. So, Water Gertie looking for her pen, funny face monster clown, new skeleton keys, old skeleton keys on the floor, and Emily near the door. Greetings, said the figure, flashing his key-tipped fingers. Can't be, Emily gasped. But it was. It was another Skeleton Keys. Mr. Keys? Gasped Emily as the newly unimagined Skeleton Keys stood over her. Moonlight from the window silhouetted the skeleton's 10 key-tipped fingers. Grinning to see you, my dear ankle sprout, said the other Skeleton Keys. He patted himself down with his key-tipped fingers. Is it me, or does everything suddenly feel confoundingly solid? He turned back to examine his surroundings. Where are we? I do not recall your imagination being so filled with murkish and miserable monster. At the sight of Funny Face, the other Skeleton Keys let out a scream so filled with fear that it shook the foundations of the hideout. The skeleton watched in trembling horror as Funny Face dug Water Gertie's pen out from between two floorboards. With a bow, he handed it to the girlish and imaginary. How Gertie missed pen, how Gertie missed writing, Water Gertie cried, turning on Emily. Funny Face, bring them to Gertie. Mr. Keys, get us out of here, Emily pleaded, as Funny Face stomped towards them. Your keys. My what? Cheese and biscuits, yes, of course, said the other Skeleton Keys. He lifted his hand to the keyhole, but the keys cluttered uselessly around the edge of the lock. Hurry, Emily cried. At last the other Skeleton Keys shoved his right thumb into the lock. Click-clunk. Emily swung open the door, and together they dragged the unconscious Skeleton Keys through. Then, as the monster leaped towards them, the other Skeleton Keys grabbed the door handle. Wait, Emily cried. Wait, what about Daisy? But it was too late. The other Skeleton Keys pulled the door shut. Right. Next one. It's called Skeleton Keys Meet Skeleton Keys. Interesting. So, now they are in the other world. This is new Skeleton Keys, just newly unimagined. And there's the wounded Skeleton Keys. Interesting meeting, isn't it? Okay. So, Skeleton Keys woke up to find his own skull staring back at him. Greetings, said the other Skeleton Keys. My name is Keys. Skeleton Keys. What a coincidence, so is mine, replied Skeleton Keys as the other skeleton helped him to his feet. However, your timely unimagining is not at all how I remembered coming into the world. Cheese and biscuits, have I altered the past and changed the future to Time travel is so Wait, where are we? Where's Emily? Skeleton Keys looked around. All he could see was darkness and fog. Then there she was, Emily, crouched in the darkness, hugging her knees, as she quietly sobbed. Emily, are you hurt? Yeah, my heart's broken, Emily replied, tears threatening to clean her cheeks. That clown squashed Chocobo. Cry, baby, said Daisy, and the girl with the backwards head suddenly appeared. Daisy, there you are. Oh, now you remember me? Daisy sighed. Out of sight, out of mind. I remember you vanishing in Emily's hour of need. Skeleton Keys chided her. Dogs and cats, Daisy. If you're not going to be helpful, then what? You'll run off with Nancy Neverwash? She's got her own bag of bones now. She doesn't need you anymore. With that, Daisy pushed past both skeletons and held out her hand to Emily. Yours, I believe. Daisy opened her hand. There, dazed but intact, was Emily's beetle, Chocobo. Chuck, you're alive, Emily cried, scooping Chocobo up in her hands. The beetle clicked weakly. How? I saw Funny Face squash you like a bug. I grabbed him before Funny Face stomped on him, obviously. You owe me for life, by the way. Now stop crying like a crybaby, or I'll tread on you myself. Thank you, cried Emily, wiping her eyes. She grabbed Daisy and gave her the first hug she'd ever had. Thank you until the cows come home and my head falls off. That's Emily grabbing Daisy as a thank you. Ugh, get off me, Daisy groaned, squirming free. All I care about is getting home to... Wait, where are we? Seems awfully familiar, said Emily, peering into the light swallowing fog. Without thinking, she pursed her lips and blew, enough to snuff out a candle. The fog vanished in an instant, and the strange blackness parted like a wave. They found themselves on a small, grassy island surrounded by a dark, crystalline ocean. The waves rose and fell as if they were breathing. Then, as the sea touched the horizon, it appeared to reach upwards to become a vast mountain range, transforming again into a sky and galaxy of stars. Crown Crinkles, I would know this place anywhere. It is the most wonder-filling place imaginable. It's my home. Our home, said the other Skeleton Keys. We are inside Emily's imagination. Inside my head? Exclaimed Emily. That is where the key to imagination takes us. After all, to the world of your imaginings. Truth to be told, that key will open the door to any imagination, Skeleton Keys corrected him. But of all the imaginations I have encountered in my adventures, yours is still the most flabbergasting, Emily. Emily grinned. Well then, let's have a proper look, shall we? Right, next chapter is going to be about Emily's imagination. I must say some of the stuff she imagined, according to the writer, is a bit disturbing. Look, strange fish, strange everything. Right. Okay, so without warning, a tree sprouted from beneath her feet. It grew in an instant. Carved branches wrapped around them, carrying them up and up beyond the mountains and the sky until the impossible tree crashed through the ceiling of stars, which shattered into a million tiny glowing beetles. Just like you, Chocobo. Emily laughed as everyone stared out in awe from their place in a treetop. Cram Crinkles, the sky is full of imaginings, uttered Skeleton Keys. I had almost forgotten how flabbergasting this all is. Sure enough, they were figments of Emily's wild imagination as far as the eye could see. Immense, gleaming whales swam through the air, surrounded by golden clouds comprising thousands of shimmering, ethereal birds. A great airship seemed to pump like a beating heart as it made its way overhead, while herds of galloping horses emerged from nowhere, their hoofbeats creating explosions of light and color. Stranger creatures appeared too, silvery snakes that rippled like water, blue-striped monsters whose roars painted colors in the air, clanking mechanical men with steam pumping out of their numerous arms and legs. In the distance, houses grew from nothing and whirled around each other to form towns and cities, and far off lands took form and vanished in moments. Indeed, 100 wild ideas filled the void at any one time, floating, flying, swimming, and soaring across a skyscape of endless possibilities. I don't see what all the fuss is about, tutted Daisy, shuffling sulkily on her branch. Let's get out of here. Back to the real world? Whispered the other skeleton keys. Cheese and biscuits, need I remind you about the monster? I'm sorry to unimagine you into this monstrous madness, Mr. Keys. It was hardly fair, what with you being such a scaredy bones and all. Indeed, I had almost forgotten that you imagined me as such a fretful, felony chap, Emily. Not a skeleton Keys. He glanced disdainfully at his past self. It is hard to believe I was ever so wet behind the ear canals. Better that than past my prime, scoffed the other skeleton Keys, showily plucking a leaf from nearby branch. Past my prime? I have not aged a day in a dozen decades, insisted Skeleton Keys, and at least I am no unseasoned new bones who's barely a minute unimagined, and at least I am not falling apart as the keys, sneered the other Skeleton Keys. I cannot help but notice that you don't have your keys. They were taken from me. I would be my whole self, if not for that grim ghost rewriting me with her punishing pen. How else do you think we ended up in the past? Well, fret not, said the other Skeleton Keys pointedly. With my fantabulum key to time, I can send you back to where we belong. Ah, why didn't I think of that earlier? Daisy piped up. This new bone bag can send us to our own time, and we can leave them to saw our word to go and just go home. Leave? Without my keys? Out of questioning, said Skeleton Keys. You didn't care about your keys 2 minutes ago, said Daisy. All you cared about was hanging out with your girlfriend. Well, we could all just stay here in my imagination. I'd be literally out of my mind to leave. Emily chuckled, effortlessly jumping from one tree to another. My imaginings are my favorite things, but I never actually thought I could step foot inside them. Also, cake. Let's have some cake. With that, 2 pigeons riding a tandem bicycle appeared out of thin air to deliver a freshly imagined fruitcake, which flew obediently into Emily's mouth. Delicious! She laughed, wiping cake crumbs from her face. Still hungry, though? I'm afraid anything you consume will fill your mind, not your belly, said Skeleton Keys. All these things seem real, but if you began your existence in the real world, you cannot survive here. I can't? She smacked her lips together, the taste of cake disappearing like a dream. She gave her beetle another stroke, and it clickety-clacked contentedly. And while we're here, I suppose Bordy-Gerdy is still making trouble back home? Dogs and cats, I'm sure she's causing the most horrible huff and hubbub, replied Skeleton Keys. With her pen back in her possession, she was set about rewriting the whole city, unless somebody stops her. Emily sat down on a tree branch and looked around, taking in the endless world of her own imagination. She took a long breath. Then I guess that somebody had better be us, she said at last. It's time we go home. Next chapter, City of Monsters. I will return us to the real world on one condition, the other Skeleton Keys exclaimed, pacing nervously up and down the branches of Emily's imagination tree, that I lay not a single eye socket on that rumble-shoving monster. Bones and buckles, was I ever so shiver-livered? Said Skeleton Keys. I may not have keys, but at least I have a spine. I have a spine, insisted the other Skeleton Keys. It pokes out of my coat when I bend over. Ah, 2 bone backs is one too many at least, groaned Daisy. They are a handful, all right, replied Emily, her beetle clickety-clacking from the top of her head. Then she shook a deep, serious breath. Right, let's get started. With a single thought, the titanic tree vanished, depositing them back on the island below. Emily imagined a wooden door, which immediately appeared in front of her. Everybody ready? This might turn into quite an adventure. Her beetle came to rest upon her index finger. He lowered his head and let out a single soft click. Don't be daft, Chuck. Of course I understand. Understand what? Said Daisy. My friend Chuckaboo says he's reminded of the rare comfort that comes from existing as a figment of my imagination. He asks if he can stay here for now at least. I do not see why not, said Skeleton Key, shooting a sideways glance at his past self. Any unimaginary may return to the realm of imaginings, should they feel unready for the real world. All they need is the key to imagination. Well, I'm going to miss you, little beetle. But as long as you're in my imagination, we'll never be apart, Emily said with a smile. She held her beetle up to her lips and kissed him gently. Ew, said Daisy. Good luck, Chuck, added Emily, and held out her finger. Her beetle paused for a moment before letting out a last clickety-clack and taking to the air. Emily watched him disappear into the sky and blinked away a tear. All right, Mr. Keys, let's go back to reality. Sticks and stones, do not say I did not warn you, sighed the other Skeleton Keys, and slipped the key imagination into the lock. There was a click-clank, and Emily pushed the door open. We may have been worrying over nothing, she whispered, stepping back into the now abandoned attic. It doesn't look like anything's changed. This is the bit where you look out of the window, dummy, said Daisy as the 2 Skeleton Keys followed her into the room. Emily crept over to the window and peered out. Oh my, she said. I think Bordy-Gerdy might be running out of ideas. Below them, the streets teemed with monsters. And those are Town of Monsters. See? Monsters. A horrifying horde of impossible, beastly creatures filled the rookeries. Emily watched one misshapen monster after another lumber down the street, each distorted and inhuman in their own unique way. I take back everything I said about Girl, said Daisy. This is great. Daisy, stop enjoying the villainy. Cramcrickle's Bordy-Gerdy has already rewritten dozens. This is literally my worst nightmare, said the other skeleton keys. What now? We cannot take on the city chock brimming with monsters. We don't need to. All we need is that pen, said Emily. Now, I don't want to brag, but I'm a half-decent thief, so stealing I can do. But Water has an army on her side now. If I'm to take the pen, I'll need you to create distraction, something big. Skeleton Keys looked at the other skeleton keys. Leave that to me, he said thoughtfully, tapping his fingers against the chin. He may have the keys, but I have a plan. Right. Now the next chapter, it's called The Plan. Halfway across the city, in a town square, Water floated above the wreckage of the fallen clock tower. At her command, her monstrous army gathered around to protect her and her precious pen. She whirled the pen through the air, scrawling the same word again and again. Monster, monster, monster. Her creations rapidly filled the square. They had begun to crawl and clamber over each other for room. Even Watergoldie's first monster, Funny Face, climbed on the toppled clock tower to escape the monstrous multitude. Monster, monster, Watergoldie repeated. She had made so many, she was starting to forget how to write anything else. She spun in the air as she searched for someone else to transform. Then suddenly they appeared. From the door of a small sweet shop at the far end of the square emerged not the one but two skeletons. You, Watergoldie hissed, and you? Greetings to the rewritten, to unchanged, and everything in between, declared Skeleton Keys as he and his trembling counterpart stood either side of the door. And greetings to you, Watergoldie. I see you have been busy, but you seem to be repeating yourself. Could you be suffering from writer's block? Monsters, get them, she cried, pointing at skeletons with her pen. 100 monsters rounded on the two skeletons, and led by Green, Funny Face began lumbering towards them. I know you said you had a plan, Mr. Keys, whispered the other skeleton. But surely this cannot be it. Plan? Skeleton Keys pointed at Keyhole. Who needs a plan when you have the key to possibility? Possibility? Which one is that again? On your right hand, count 2 fingers from your thumb, said Skeleton Keys. Fret not, anything is possible when the key to possibility makes anything possible, possibly. That makes me feel so much better, said the other Skeleton Keys, his trembling finger hovering by the lock. Steady, Mr. Keys, not yet. Wait until they're closer. The other Skeleton Keys' bones rattled uncontrollably as the monster's hold closed in. They will be on them in seconds. Now? Not yet. Now? Not yet. Now? Not yet. Wait, yes, now. Now! The other Skeleton Keys jammed the key into the lock. He twisted it with a click-clank and turned the handle. The pressure behind the door pushed it open so fast that the other Skeleton Keys was knocked off his feet. Then from inside the door came a tidal wave of pens. The next chapter, it's called Pens. I mean, loads of pens. The pens poured out in the thousands, millions, billions, a torrent of pens of all shapes, sizes, colors, surging out of the door with such force that in such vast numbers that they swept even the largest monsters off their feet, and they carried them across the square. Within moments, Funny Face and the monstrous horde was engulfed in the wave and swallowed up. Pens, noted the other Skeleton Keys. How ironic. Possibly, replied the other skeleton. Watergoldie, meanwhile, had managed to float clear of the cascade, her precious pen pressed to her chest. funny face monsters, she shrieked as her monsters vanished beneath the wave. That's something you don't see every day, said Emily from her rooftop perch, high above the square. As she looped one end of a long rope, Daisy clung to her back, her arms around Emily's neck. "All said, Daisy?" "My head is backwards," groaned Daisy, "and I can still smell you." "I'll take it as a yes." Daisy held on tighter as she turned invisible. Then Emily whirled the looped end of the rope above her head and flung it into the air. It caught upon the neck of a gargoyle on the other side of the square. "Hang on," she said. Then she bent her knees, arched her back, and jumped. Water Gertie did not even see Emily coming. She was too busy worrying about her monsters drowning in pens. But then she heard Emily's cry. "Evening, Ghosty, and thank you for your kind donation." The ghost writer spun in the air just in time for Emily to swing past her. The gape-toothed girl reached out for the pen and then missed it by an inch. "Stinker!" Woody yelled as Emily leaped from the rope and landed on the edge of the pen's cascade by the two skeleton keys. "You missed, Gertie," she cried victoriously. Missed. "Are you sure about that?" Emily replied. Gertie looked down at her hand. Her pen was gone. No, she cried, casting her eyes down to the ocean of pens. Then she rounded on Emily. "Stinker! Give pen!" Emily shrugged and held out her empty hand. "Who? Me? I don't have it. Maybe you dropped it?" "Dropped?" Water Gertie whispered. And as she gazed down on the mountain of pens, No. Water Gertie's shriek echoed around the square and back at her. She dived into the mass of pens, swimming against the tide of monsters, and they were trying to dig themselves out free. After a few moments, she burst out of the depths and immediately dived in again. Up and down she went, each time crying out in increasing desperation. "Pen!" Finally, Water Gertie burst out of the mass of pens and hovered in the air. Too many. Water Gertie, roaring rain of rewriting is over," said Skeleton Keys. "Undo your doings, or by my bones you will never see a pen again." "Bad Mr. Bones, nasty trick." Water Gertie whined, scooping pens up in her hands. "Please help, where is pen?" "We don't have it," said Emily. "She does." "Surprise," said a voice. In an instant, Daisy reappeared in front of Skeleton Keys, Water Gertie's pen in hand. "I know how to do stealing now. You didn't even notice me grab the pen out of your hand when Smelinda swam past, did you?" "Bad girl, give pen," Gertie snarled. She saw Funnyface begin to claw his way out of a mass of pens. "Look, Gertie still has monsters. Give pen or..." "Oh, shut up," Daisy said. "I do it all now. Do it, or I will break your silly pen in bits." "Bad girl wouldn't," Water Gertie wailed, floating slowly towards Daisy. "Break a pen and Mr. Bones never gets his keys back. Bad girl wouldn't, bad girl couldn't." Daisy looked back at Skeleton Keys on the edge of the ocean of pens, standing protectively in front of the girl who unimagined them. She stared at them for a long moment and turned back to Water Gertie. "He won't mind. He's got everything he needs here anyway," she said with a sigh. Then her face hardened. She grabbed the pen in both hands. Stop! Gertie believes," Gertie cried. With that, she stuck her fingers in her ears and puffed out her cheeks. A second later came a pop. Everything changed. Now, another chapter is called Back to Normal, or Back to Abnormal. Reality reset itself in an instant. The echoing pop ran out over the city as Water Gertie's work was undone. The first thing Emily and two skeleton keys noticed was that the creatures crawling out of the mountain of pens were once again human. Even Funnyface had gone from monster to man in an instant. He immediately spotted the madder inside of his nemesis, Captive Jack. "You again," he growled, clenching his fists. The second thing he saw, however, was a pair of living skeletons and a girl with backwards head. Emily watched him slink in horror back into the shadows. "Everything is back to abnormal, or is it?" said Skeleton Keith, glancing intensely down at his fingers. He saw the air around his hands shimmer with an eerie light, and then, one by one, his remarkable keys returned to his tips of fingers. "By my buckles, I'm restored to my form of untambulance. I'm myself again." "I knew you were the real thing, Mr. Keys," laughed Emily in delight. "There, Gertie has undone. Everything is back," Gertie cried. "Now please give pen." "Silly girl," Daisy nodded with a grimace. "I was always going to break it." "Don't be daft, Daisy," said Emily, effortlessly swiping the pen from Daisy's hand. "Gertie's writing may be wrong, but two wrongs don't make it right. This pen is part of who she is. It belongs to her." "What?" said Daisy. "Horse and cart, Emily, wait," cried Skeleton Keys. "If you return that pen, Water Gertie will begin her Rotary revisions all over again." "Is that true, Gertie?" asked Emily, holding out the pen to the ghostwriter. "If I give you that pen, will you keep rewriting?" "No, no, I—" began Water Gertie, her trembling hand grasping for the pen. Then she paused and looked Emily straight in the eye. "Yes, if you give that pen, Gertie will write." "See, she admitted it. Break that silly pen, preferably over her head." "It's not Gertie's fault," Gertie said, in a glowing green tear running down her cheek. "Gertie writes. It is what Gertie does. It is what Gertie is." "I understand. You didn't ask to be imagined that way, or unimagined. But we just can't have you rewriting the whole world," Emily explained. She took off her cap and scratched her head, sending a cloud of dust into the air. At last she asked, "Water Gertie, what if you could go to a place where you could do all the rewriting you liked, and no one would be against it or bat an eyelid?" "Where?" asked Water Gertie. Emily tapped the side of her head. "Here, in my imagination." "What?" cried two skeletons. "It's simple. I give Water Gertie back her pen, and then we use the key to imagination to put her in my head. She can do all the rewriting she wants. I reckon my imagines can take it." "You would do that for Gertie? Why?" "'Cause I know what it's like to have a wild imagination." Then she slowly placed the pen in Water Gertie's hand. "Ugh, I'm not doing this all over again," Daisy groaned. "Everything is going to be okay, Gertie. Mr. Keys, your key, if you please." Both skeletons held out their key-tipped fingers. "Ah, of course. After you, Mr. Keys." Another skeleton key shook his head. "No, after you. I find it rather confounding trying to keep up with which key does what." Skeleton Key shrugged and nodded all at once. "Practice makes perfect. No one said being an imaginary friend is easy, but it's quite an adventure." "I will take your word for it," muttered the other Skeleton Keys. Original Skeleton Keys put his newly restored key to imagination into the lock on the sweet shop door. He turned the key with a click-clank and opened the door to reveal a wondrous world of wild imaginings. "Ugh, not this dump again," grunted Daisy. Emily turned to Water Gertie. "Welcome to my imagination, Gertie. Make yourself at home." Then the next chapter, It's called Unready. There she is, happy as a bunny. Not quite 5 minutes later, the two skeleton keys and Daisy stood outside the locked sweet shop door staring at Emily. Her eyes were closed and her mouth pursed in concentration. Dawn had yet to break across the city and the air was cold and sharp. "Ugh, can we go home now?" Daisy said at last. "Patience, Daisy. Emily is having to contend with a new addition to her imagination. We must think of her for once." "Right, for once," sighed Daisy, folding her arms. "So?" asked the other skeleton keys. "How is Watergate getting on?" After a moment, Emily opened her eyes and wide gap-toothed grin appeared on her face. "She's taking to it quite like a duck to water. She's rewriting the place like crazy, but to be honest, it just makes things more interesting." "A greener in relief," exclaimed the other skeleton keys. "This horrible, horrible day is finally looking up." "And what day it's been," laughed Emily. "I can't wait for our next adventure, Mr. Keys." "Nor I." "Ah, but of course she meant you." About that," the other skeleton keys said. "I don't mean to throw a scupper into the works, Emily, but I might have to hold your horseshoes regarding adventures." "What do you mean?" Emily said with a dusty scratch of her head. "I am sorry, but I fear I'm not ready to be unimaginary." "Unready? Of course you're ready, aren't you? I just never expected the real world to be so very real and also filled with monsters," explained the other skeleton keys. He gestured to his future self. "This, Mr. Keys, is bold and fearless in all the things I am not, all the things I do not think I could ever be. This is the unimaginary friend you need, Emily." "I do not understand," said Skeleton Keys. "I too wish to return to Emily's imagination," the other skeleton keys said at last. "I wish for you to take my place by Emily's side. Be me, that I cannot." Skeleton Keys could not contain his gasp. "Me? Be you? Who better to take my place on 1,000 wild, wonderful field in unbearably spine-chilling adventures than an older, wiser, braver me?" "Mr. Keys, are you sure?" asked Emily. "I am as certain as sausages," the other skeleton keys confirmed. "I want to go back." "Well, I guess you didn't ask to be unimagined either." "What do you say, Mr. Keys?" "I say it would be the most fantabulous honor of this or any existence." Then he heard a huffling ground and realized Daisy was standing right next to him. "Daisy, there you are. Where did you disappear off to?" "I wasn't invincible. You just didn't see me." "Then you must have heard the fantabulous news. I believe the three of us destined for the most flabbergasting adventures. And I believe I'll miss you as much as my little fart." "Miss me? What do you mean?" "You want to live in the past? Go ahead, but not me. I might as well be invisible when you're with Emily. Well, I decide when I'm invisible, not you." "Daisy, it's not like that," insisted Skeleton Keys. "If Mr. Keys does not wish to join Emily on her adventures, then I must. I have no choice." Daisy walked over to the sweet shop door. "You always have a choice, Dammy," she said. "Just send me home." "Daisy, stay. Please do." "Crumbcrinkles, there's no need for that." "Send me home," Daisy hissed, giving the skeleton an icy glare. "Do it, or I'll make you both wish you'd never met me." Skeleton Keys knew better than to argue with the third most troublesome unimaginary he had ever met. Reluctantly, he put the key to time in the door and turned. Click-clack. Daisy shoved past him and opened the door. As Emily and other skeleton keys looked on, Daisy paused in the doorway. I will see you very soon, Skeleton Keys said. For you, no time will have passed, but I have lived a lifetime all over again. Our time is up, Bombag. Just leave me alone. And have fun living in the past. You've been doing it so long enough. And with that, she pushed the door shut. Then the next chapter, it's called About Time. Daisy found herself in the middle of the city, the present-day metropolis of neon and noise that they had left behind on their way to the past. The thunderstorm was over, the last of the rain fell on her fine mist, and the morning sunshine was moments away. She took a long breath of damp air and sighed. For the first time since she was unimagined, Daisy had no idea what to do next. She glanced back and saw that the door from which she just emerged was now the entrance to a shop selling old clocks. The shop window was filled with timepieces of all shapes and sizes, which ticked and talked at her through the glass. Daisy stood there for a long moment watching time pass. Silly clock, stupid time. She suddenly felt the need to break every single clock in the shop and turn invisible in preparation for some mindless destruction. But then, as she reached for the door handle, there came a clink-clank. The door suddenly swung open and a figure strode out straight into Daisy. "Dogs and cats!" came a cry. Skeleton Keys stumbled backwards. "Daisy, is that you?" "I thought I told you to leave me alone." "You did indeed. But you also reminded me that everyone has a choice, so I chose not to." "You are so annoying," Daisy groaned. "So how was the last 200 years?" "Truth to be told, only 7 minutes have passed since me and you saw each other." "What did you do with 7 whole minutes?" "As a matter of fact, I came to my senses. The moment you walked through that door, Daisy, I realized you were right." "Obviously." She scuffed the pavement with her foot and added, "Right about what?" "About the first rule of time travel. I'm quite certain that Emily did invent the rule to dissuade me from going back to find her. If she had not, she knew I would have clung to the past, even as the future was there for me to take. We always have a choice, and I choose to leave the past behind me." Daisy snorted. "What about Nancy Neverwash? Did you leave her all alone?" It took 6.5 minutes, but I managed to convince the other Mr. Keys not to return to Emily's imagination. I told him that the wild and wonder-filling years I spent with Emily were the making of all Mr. Keys. I told him to be brave and embrace the adventure. And it must have worked, for here I am, as fantambulant as always. "Ugh, I hate time travel," Daisy groaned. "Anyway, what has Godot got to do with me?" Skeleton Keys looked up in the sky. Dawn was breaking. "Life is an adventure, Daisy. It is as yet untold tale with beginning and middle and the end. And if you will do me a fulsome, unworthy, and undeserving bag of bones the very great honor of remaining my friends—" "Partner," Daisy corrected him. "Partner," repeated the skeleton, "that I'm quite sure the best years of my life are not behind me. They are just ahead. What do you say?" Daisy looked up. The sun at last rose clear of the buildings and cast an orange glow over the city. "I say it's about time, but no more living in the past." "Quite so. After all, there is no time like the present," said Skeleton Keys. He closed the door to the clock shop and then raised his 10 key-tipped fingers. "Where would you like to go?" There they are. Two unlikely friends, Skeleton Keys and Daisy. And That's the end, my friend. We did it. The whole book. Did it. Did it. We did